Hey TD Superheroes, I'm Alejandro Perez, your sidekick, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at continuing on the face rig setup that we've been working on. And in the last video we created a skeleton, a tool that we can kind of adjust and position for our character that we're working on. Then we create the skeleton, although I didn't select the mesh, so let's try that again. Adjust the skeleton, select the mesh, and then bind skeleton. And then we're at the point where we can manipulate the head rig. So one of the things that I did do and in between lessons is that this line here on 39 used to be bind skin. And that works fine, except that it won't let us paint weights on each one of the joints for the mesh. So if we switch it over to skin cluster, then we should be okay, and we get the mesh deforming. Let's hide all of this geometry here for the moment. There we go. So we have a mesh here, and we'll kind of go through a quick run through of how we would paint the weights here. So I'm going to go to skin, paint skin weights, option box, and it gives us the ability to look at what the weights were assigned by default, which obviously does not look appropriate. Like, that's definitely not the jaw, what it should be expecting. So let's take a quick run through on how I would approach this. So I would actually go to push F8 on the keyboard. That gets us into sub-object mode. If we do it that way, when we draw a box around it, we won't select the joints. If we get out of that mode, I pushed F8 again, and I went into vertex mode. If I were to draw a selection, it selects the joints. So pushing F8 here, I can take all of the weights here, and then I am going to double click on our weights tool here, and I'm going to select the base and flood it. So what that does, it assigns all of the weights to that base joint. And then from here, I'm going to control right click, shrink selection, control right click, shrink selection, shrink. And I'm going to do that up to this point here. And then here, I am going to go back to the paint weights and then select the mid neck and flood. Then I'm gonna go back into our vertex mode here, and I'm actually going to make sure we're in the side view so that way we can get a little bit more accurate. I'm just gonna basically go in and define everything that is not the neck. And later on, I'll smooth out the selection for the neck here. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to have something like this. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and then go back to our paint weights tool, and this time we're going to go to the head, and we will flood, again replace, and opacity at 1, value of 1. And now that we have that, we want to set up a selection for the jaw, and select the jaw here. And get as good of a selection as I can, but I know it's not going to be perfect. I'll leave it at that for right now. And then let's go here in paint weights, and then let's select, oops, I have a little bit extra that I want to remove here. Vertex mode, there we go. And then we can go back into the paint tool. Oops. I do need that selection. Let's go to F8. There we go. and then to the jaw and flood. So, oops, looks I have some points selected there, so let's make sure vertex that we don't have those selected. Let's go back to the paint tool and let's see if we had them in the head. We don't. We do have them in the neck, so we'll have to fix that later, but we have the jaw selected right now. And then let's go ahead and flood. And then we're not going to put anything on the jaw aim. We're just going to put it on this. So let's fix that little part back there. Since we know that was an issue, we can select that, go here, select the base, and flood it at a value of 1 with replace. Okay, so right now this isn't going to look great. Let's go into object mode so we can select the joints, but we have some motion and it's a lot closer than what we had before, but it's kind of like rough. So here I know that is going to be a issue, so I'm going to rotate this, and these are preset to 0 with the way we built it. So if I open this, I know I can get back to the default position. I'm going to select that joint in the middle, or that vertex in the middle of the lip, control right click and go to grow selection and grow. And I'll expand this a little bit until it gets to the corner of the mouth, and then go to the paint, select the jaw and flood at a value of 1. So we get a mouth that is opening now. So obviously the smoothing does not look great, but it does open. So let's take a look at smoothing this out. So all of the joints are going to need some smoothing. I'm going to kind of show you really quick how we would start off by doing that. Let's go into the side viewport, select the mesh, push F8. I'm going to push 4 to go to wireframe mode. And I'm going to start off by selecting kind of this region here, the corner of the mouth. And then I'm going to make sure that I deselect kind of the joints that are, or the vertices that are there kind of in the middle. I just want the corners right now. Okay, and then let's go into object mode and select the joint here, open it up again, go to this and go to the selection mode and then push F8. We get our selection back for the vertices, and then we can switch it from replace to smooth. And I'm going to start off with the jaw and click smooth maybe 3 or 4 times, and then go back to the head and smooth it here, and that's going to bring kind of some of the lower lip up as well. And you want to kind of go back and forth until you have something that you feel is working properly. And you can see that maybe I'm smoothing a little bit too much there, but slowly you're going to start taking the mouth and it's going to look quite a bit better. So I have a version where I did that to all of the joints because, like, we can look at the neck, that's going to be a bit of an issue here, and the head, we can see that there is no smoothing at all there. So let's take these joints and let's set them back to 0. Then selecting the mesh, I did take some time and make a kind of rough version of the whole head because the binding part does take quite a bit of time painting the weights. But if we go into skin, import skin weights map, or import weights map, and then skin weights map, which is one that we saved out. I don't want to save that. No, I went to export really quick. That's how you would export it out, but I want to go into import skin weights, this, open, and then it should have kind of gone through the process and have a version that I had saved out. Again, like I said, it was rough. It's still not perfect, but it is, there's some issues here. That's easy enough to fix, but we have the jaw, it's working pretty good. The head is working okay. This neck, we want to make sure it doesn't affect that area. It gives us a perfect opportunity to go in and adjust the map so that you guys can see how to export this out properly. So I'm going to go here, base neck, and I'm going to flood it with a replace value of 1. So now we got a little bit of a kind of better movement. We're not moving the kind of base area. If we can kind of combine these, we can see we're getting some sort of movement like this. So it's working okay. I'll probably in between lessons spend quite a bit more time tweaking it. The mouth is a little bit weird still here, and I'm going to get it a lot closer, but then we're also going to have a deformer that will kind of adjust the shape for us to look better when it opens as well. But we saved out, or we fixed that map. Let's save out a map really quick. So we go skin with the mesh selected, export weight maps. Then you set the file name. You actually don't need to have the dot weight map, so you can just do that and then save, and it should kind of replace it. So if we go into my projects folder, textures, we can see we have that file there. So if we were to go through and let's say we were rebuilding this, we create this face skeleton, we can select the head and then build the mesh. We are at the state where it was at the beginning. Select the mesh, skin, import weights map, select the weight map, and then we have that deformation working again. So there we go. It works. Sometimes there's a little bit of an issue with the way the maps transfer over. Like you can see we have, and it could be my UVs in this character are not great for the back of the neck because it's moving with that. We can change the, because this is, I exported it as a JPEG. So if I go into here, project folder, face rig, textures, and let's, instead of dot weight map, we should change it to .jpg. Say yes, and then we can open it and we should be able to see it now. Oh, because it's a collection of weight maps. I see. We have the weight maps here, and you can see the actual JPEGs. It already saved it, so I do have a little bit of the weight there. You can see that we have some areas that it is putting the weight maps, so the UVs are going to be important for this. Let's take a look, and we can probably like paint the area directly inside of like Photoshop, but you can see each joint is there. Let's look at the UVs. So modify, or sorry, window, UV editor. Okay, and then let's select the head. Okay, it might be that these were in a different shell. So if I take these and kind of position them here. Okay, so we have that there. Let's fix that neck portion again. So got this here, go into the neck. Oops. Let's select the vertices we want to affect. So all of these. Go back here, we're at the base neck and flood. And then let's skin, export skin, select the weight maps, save. Yes, I want to replace it. Then we can go back in and try setting this up one more time. We've got the joints, got the head. We can rotate this. We can see it's not the proper weights. And then we can go to the import weight maps. Select the weight maps, import, and let's see if that worked. Yep, it works because we have those faces on the correct map. Okay, so now that I have that set up, I can bring back all of my geometry. We should be good there. There is my lower jaw and my tongue. Where's the tongue? There we go. So if we look at it in wireframe, we can see the tongue is there. Both of those are going to end up being set up directly onto this joint. We'll do that through the code, and so we're not going to worry about that too much right now. There we go. And then other than that, let's save this project. So let's look at our code. So we're going to, in future lessons, take a look at connecting the lower jaw and the tongue to this joint. And then we're also going to start connecting the hair elements to the skeleton, kind of all the elements that we want to kind of move with the mesh. And then we're going to connect this all to our auto rig. The maps weights, we're always going to have to paint it once with this setup, but once we have it once, we can take those weights that we've exported and assign them to the mesh automatically, so we can do a check to see if the mesh is, or if the maps are created, then apply them. If they're not, just apply the default weights to the mesh. Okay, so I will leave you guys here, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.